Good morning. Welcome to Hindi Newspaper IAS 27th November 2022. First article, birth certificate to be mandated for jobs, driving license, passport, voting rights. Now Government of India is thinking to amend Registration of Birth and Death Act 1969 to mandate the carrying or submitting of birth certificate in government jobs, even in admissions, passport, voting rights. This is a draft copy. Let us wait and watch for the next interesting developments. We will see how others will write articles on this issue and how government will bring this amendment also. Next article, Telangana scores double win at UNESCO Heritage Awards. Try to understand, this article is literally not important for the civil service examination. However, we can revise some interesting data or some interesting medieval history here. We know, we are well aware that Qutub Shahi dynasty is one of the important dynasty ruled during the end of the medieval era and also during the arrival of Europeans. And they constructed these beautiful tombs in the Hyderabad region, and these are the so-called raised platforms which resembles Persian, Pathan and Hindu architecture style, and they used grey granite and beautiful ornamentation also happened here. So they attract a lot of tourists. At the same time, government of Telangana also creating a massive awareness about it. So now that Qutub Shahi Tombs complex in Hyderabad and Domakonda Fort which was built in 18th century in Kamara districts got this award. So you are well aware that last year UNESCO announced heritage site status to 1000 pillars temples in Ramappa temple in Warangal. Next article, PSLV C-54 successfully places 9 satellites in multiple orbits. We are well aware that ISRO is in news from last week also. Even last week also we do have mentioning about satellite launched by ISRO, and this month almost one satellite was that is mission Prarambh Vikram series was launched. Now we have one more update from the ISRO, PSLV C-54 with Earth observation satellite, Ocean Sat, and 8 other non-satellites went into 2 different orbits. Try to understand here, PSLV is considered to be a commercial workhorse for the ISRO. And interestingly, this launch includes one important objective from the Paris Agreement. According to Paris Agreement, that India will help the launching of weather satellite for French. So for that objective, now it was fulfilled yesterday. At the same time, there is Anand Nano satellite, which is a technology demonstrator for commercial application of miniaturized Earth observation camera for Earth observation using microsatellite in low Earth orbit. So this is a welcome initiative from ISRO. Let us wait and watch for the next important developments from ISRO. Next article, Kargil Council passes resolution for Ladakh's statehood. So Ladakh and even Jammu and Kashmir, they became union territories after the famous act, that is Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. And here this act emphasizes that it created Ladakh without legislature and Jammu and Kashmir union territory with legislature. But however, Kargil Hill Council now demanded a statehood for Ladakh. At the same time, we should also remember that they also referred the Article 370 and Article 335A. It is well known fact that Article 370 is guaranteeing special provisions to the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. But Article 35 is somewhat less in news. It talks about permanent residents of the state, providing special privileges to them. Article 375 said that you are supposed to be within the region of Jammu and Kashmir. That is, for example, if a lady marries a guy from other territory, she will lose her provisions, and even the children of her also will lose the provisions. So strictly it provides restrictions on the residents, and the Kargil Hill Council Committee passed a resolution even made some references to these articles. Next article talks about President Murmu, Prime Minister Modi laud women's role in drafting constitution. This article highlights that almost yesterday the celebrations of Constitution Day, and here Prime Minister Modi raised some important points. That is, within the Constitution Assembly there were around 15 members were women, and Dakshayani Velayadam, she belongs to even marginalized caste. Apart from that, Durgabai Deshmukh, Hansa Mehta, Rajkumar Amrit Kaur are some of the prominent people in the Constitution Assembly. So today also Constitution provided an important role for women in creating an equal society. For example, if you refer Article 15 Clause 3, 15 Clause 1 and 16 Clause 4, all the things are mentioning about somewhat special provisions to women under the weaker sections. And here, women do have mentioned in the DPSPs also. And we have National Women's Commission, which is also an important thing in the Indian policy making and also protection of women. Next article, Shinde and team return to Kamakhya temple for prayers. This is not very much important article. However, I placed this article to revise about this Kamakhya temple, which is in Assam, very famous for this Tantric Puja during the Ambu Bachi Mela, which is a famous Mela in India. For that reason, I placed this article, not very much important. Next article, new era in Indo-Bhutan ties with SAT. Now, Indian Space Research Organization is making an interesting step in the space diplomacy. For example, a couple of years back, we do have SARC satellite, and yesterday we have PSLV launch, which sent French satellites, and last month it launched one Webb satellite of European Unions. So you have that space diplomacy with ISRO. And here comes the point, that is now ISRO is stepping up to launch this satellite, to help this Bhutanese satellite also. And here Bhutan satellite, Bhutan SAT, India Bhutan SAT or ISRO Nano Satellite 2 for Bhutan INS-2B also launched recently. So that is a very welcome step, whereas ISRO is not only a commercial wing, not only earning profits, but apart from that it is also serving as a diplomatic mission and diplomatic ties. Next article, India is the lone absentee at China's Indo-Indian Ocean Forum of 19 countries. You know, as the global game is changing within the ocean waters, and it is well known fact that international relations quote says that those who control the oceans, they will control the world. Maybe it can be wrong in some aspects, but we can see that during the 18th century, it is the Britain who controlled the most of the ocean waters and it controlled the world. So like that, we can say once upon a time in history that Cholas usually control the Indian Ocean region, and they control the even dominant parts of the Southeast Asia. And here now the game is now changing toward the Indo-Pacific region, and China is also moving a lot towards the Pacific region, and it is also strengthening its position in Indian Ocean region. Traditionally, China doesn't have the border of Indo-Indian Ocean region, but China launched a series of programs, for example, Maritime Silk Route and CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CMIC, China-Myanmar Industrial Corridor, and China had its projects in the Bangladesh, Chittagong Port, Sri Lanka, Hambantota Port, Malé, in Maldives, and also in Africa, in Kenya, in Djibouti. So, lot of port development is going on by China. Interestingly, now China stepping up to create a regional forum within the Indian Ocean region. That is China-Indian Ocean Region Forum. And this China-Indian Ocean Forum is a step forward to create more cooperation among the Indian Ocean regions. Interestingly, the dominant country, the significant country in the Indian Ocean region, that is India, was excluded in this forum. Now, this Indian Ocean Regional Forum now going to have China International Development Cooperation Agency, CIDCA, and which will work for the progress of Indian Ocean island countries like Sri Lanka, then Maldives, and some other countries. Apart from that, it also aims to help technically and culturally, and it also aims to create a blue economic think tank in Indian Ocean region with the support of Yunnan province. Later, they also focused on humanitarian assistance, disaster relief by capacity building under traditional fishing, preservation of traditional fishing resources, promotion of renewable energy, tourism, and last but not least, China is now aims to help the countries in the Indian Ocean region to tackle their non-traditional security threats like terrorism, drugs trafficking, arms trafficking, human trafficking. Later, now recently they launched the China-Africa satellite, which aims to help the remote sensing of African countries. Steps are very concerned for India, but still let us wait and watch India's actions against this. Already India engaged in quite good number of activities, like for example, Indian Ocean Initiative, Indian Indo-Pacific Initiative, which includes 7 pillars: maritime security, maritime ecology conservation, maritime resources, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, so on and so forth. Apart from that, India also have a forum called as IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, which is India is active member. So let us wait and watch for the next developments between India and other countries, India and China particularly. Next article, Mumbai measles outbreak due to low vaccination. We are well aware that this outbreak of measles, in our discussion also we discussed it, and even this outbreak of measles is having a lot of reasons. For example, low universal immunization. Only 41% of eligible children got the measles vaccine, and there is high vaccine hesitancy. Now, vaccine hesitancy meaning is they are not willing. They have some concerns about the vaccine. They have some problems with the vaccine. I mean, some doubts and mistrust about the vaccine. That is what we can say. Apart from that, we have WHO and UNICEF studies highlighted that immunization, especially focusing on DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, and measles, have taken taken into very low level. So this is another reason. Next thing is a pandemic even impacted the giving of vaccines. And also, apart from that, children suffered a lot during the pandemic because loss of parents or guardians, and that's the reason the goals of vaccination also missed. So these are the most important things. Apart from that, environment, safety environment, hygiene environment is also playing an important role, and that is the reason we are having this measles issue. So basically, measles is also called as rubella, which is a highly contagious acute respiratory viral disease, and this is very serious problem among the young people, young children, and it is a worldwide disease. However, what is interesting is Sri Lanka became measles-free country last year. I mean, just a couple of years back. Next article talks about James Webb Telescope offers glimpse of the early universe. James Webb Telescope was developed with the collaboration of 3 countries, NASA, European Space Agency, and Canada Space Agency, and it located at Lagrangian point L2, which is one of the important point within the Earth and Sun orbit plane, and this telescope will offer important information about the universe. And initially, the article talks about some Big Bang revealing information regarding Big Bang and other satellites. Next, prevailing suicides with what is new strategy. I will make a separate audio on it. Separate audio will come to you, and you can easily note down. Okay. Next, why is the Darjeeling tea industry in crisis? This article highlights tea industry crisis, and here the most important information is the article explains about Darjeeling tea is the first commodity which recognized as under the Geographical Indication Registration Protection Act 1999 under the WTO TRIPS agreement. And right now this tea industry, even particularly Darjeeling tea industry, is facing a lot of problems. Particularly, they mentioned about climate change and even shortage of workers, high input cost is some reason, and later the reason is from Nepal. This particular point can be used in the India-Nepal challenges also. That is, Parliamentary Standing Committee highlighted that there are some loopholes in the India-Nepal agreement in 2009, which allowed duty-free duty-free tariffs on the Nepalese tea products. Now, Nepalese tea is almost impacting the domestic market of India, and there is high time to revive this tea agreement, or you can say the agreement with respect to tea industry. Next article talks about controversial commissioner, but here other highlights about the achievements of Arun Goyal. I'm not going too deep into the controversial issues because we already covered in our previous recordings. What I want to convey is Arun Goyal played an important role in Azad Ki Amrit Mahotsav, in which he brought the limelight of many famous freedom fighters, and he also one of the significant member who was in the finalization of PLI for electric vehicles, and he has very wide reputation among the cadre and among the official status also. Next article: industry urges government to establish India Rare Earth Mission. Now, Confederation of Indian Industries (CII) they recommended 5 important points regarding rare earth metals. I have to quote one thing. China is the leading supplier of industrial rare earth metals for the world. Almost 90% of rare earth metals controlled by China itself. Now you can understand that India's position is very critical. For example, India has a resource of 6% of global rare earth metals, but it is giving only 1% output. So that's the reason industrial body CII, which is acted as a pressure group, sometimes they suggested that India Rare Earth Mission should be launched on the lines of India's semiconductor mission, Deep Ocean Mission. So this will help in enhancing the supply, and India can get its place in the supply chain of rare earth metals. For that, they suggested that Indian Rare Earth Metals Limited, an organization under Department of Energy, and should be split it into 2 ways. One, it should tackle the thorium requirements, and the other fraction of the Indian Rare Earth Limited should concern about the other rare earth metals. So apart from that, as China is focusing on making China 2025, India should also focus on made in India, which focus on this rare earth metals. Next article talks about Chinar's work, the autumn magic. So this article is not important. However, the name is important. Chinar, Harud or Bovin are the names of a flower, and this flower is very famous, a tourist destination in Kashmir. Apart from that, they will make a special pot which is called as fire pot, that's called as kangaris, and by burning these leaves. So these are important articles we can have this in this session.